Hi folks, and thanks for clicking on this video. This is the first of a monthly series, I hope all being well, where I basically talk about the books I've read in this month, let you know what I thought of them, and give them a little score. It is essentially Goodreads for YouTube. So this is for the month of January. Stick around. I'm sure like a lot of people, like the end of December, start of January is all a bit of a blur. You're off work, you have a few days to yourself, it all kind of blends into one, you kind of lose track of time. So there are some books here are from December, but I had taken notes on them, so I'm going to talk about them. I should also note that I am a member of the Nerd Herd Comic Book Club. I will put the link down below. A comic book club where every Wednesday we read and review a new book every week. So some of these books are listed here, and they're not all of my choosing. We pick a book every time it's your turn. So some books here you're thinking, well, why did you read that for? You didn't read the previous stuff. They were picked by somebody else. So, but like I say, link below. Check us out. And the first of the books on this video is Batman: The Battle for the Cowl. Now I have given this a 3.5 stars out of 5, and to be honest, I did enjoy the book. I have some reservations and some thoughts on it, but ultimately I had a good time reading it. I will say that I think if you're a seasoned DC reader and you've read a lot of books in and around that time, or even slightly before it, you will benefit a lot more than I did with this story, and that's one of the major problems I have with it. Essentially what's happened is Batman's gone, something's happened to Batman, I can't remember what it was. He's no longer in the picture, and the crime rate has risen in Gotham, so it's fallen to Tim Drake, Jason Todd and Dick Grayson and whatever remaining Bat family members there are to kind of combat that. But Tim Drake, Dick Grayson and Jason Todd have their own views of how Batman should be, because I think they all agree that there should be a Batman in Gotham. Not going to be Bruce Wayne, of course, but there should be a Batman because crime has risen. You've got the Penguin, and you've got Two-Face at loggerheads. You've got Black Mask. He's kind of pulling the strings behind the scenes as well. And essentially, Jason Todd's bloodthirsty. He believes, kill these criminals. That will solve it. Where the other two don't believe that. So essentially, they do have a bit of a battle for the cowl and see who reigns supreme. The problem I had before, like I mentioned, is that I don't know enough about Tim Drake, Jason Todd, or Dick Grayson to kind of understand their motivations into being Batman and what they can bring, and that was a huge downfall for me as well. I liked the stuff of Black Mask, and it was really enjoyable, but it kind of didn't play a huge part, really, apart from the first two or three issues at the start. But I understand this is a whole bigger event, and I only read kind of main series of it, and say Black Mask and the Network and a few other the Bat family characters I would have liked to have read more of, but for this book alone, 3.5 stars is still really good. I enjoyed it, had fun with it. That's Batman: The Battle for the Cowl. And next up we have a book called Nameless by Grant Morrison. It's Grant Morrison, and sometimes Grant Morrison writes good stuff and you don't have to be under any influence to enjoy it. I don't know. I think this is a bit too far for me in terms of I understand Grant Morrison. He's very much about the chaos magic and the occult, and like that's what he does away from comics. And he's trying to put this into a book, but that's not my kind of thing. And also with this story, I don't really know what was happening. I've scored this 2 stars out of 5, and it's not because it's bad or because the art's bad. It's drawn by Chris Burnham. Yeah, the art looks really well, and it's quite gory at times. But it's just the story. I continued to get lost, and even when I thought I was able to grasp it once again, I got lost again. It's just, it's odd. It's essentially this asteroid is heading towards Earth, and they have this guy called Nameless who's been drafted into the team to go into this asteroid and stop it, because he's somehow drawn to it or somehow can understand it or something. Even now thinking about it, I can't remember. It was too odd, didn't like it. But the sci-fi stuff I did enjoy. I just wish there had been more sci-fi, less mind effing, and I read it. It was a book. 2 stars. Next up was a book called Onslaught Unleashed. Written by Sean McKeever, I think art by Felipe Andrade. Again, similar to Battle for the Cowl, I think you needed to have some pre-reading to go into this, which I didn't have. I did know who Onslaught was, so I'm sure this is probably not your first port of call for Onslaught. Again, I'll give this 2 stars out of 5. Something happens beforehand, and Onslaught is left in some sort of negative zone and has some sort of connection with a character called Nomad, who Captain America in the Secret Avengers has taken under his wing with the Young Allies or something. Again, it's not that I wasn't. It's not that it's confusing. It's more along the lines that it didn't grip me. They're kind of drawn to this place in Colombia where the Roxxon kind of warehouse stroke factory is, where this machine connects to the negative zone. So it's all kind of obviously being driven by Onslaught, and he's connected to Nomad, and she's kind of been lured there with the Young Allies and the Secret Avengers, and it kind of gets out but doesn't get out. But then we find out Nomad's no longer there. To be honest, it didn't grip me at all. It wasn't enjoyable. It was okay for people who like Onslaught, I suppose. It's not the art was bad, but the art really threw me off. Again, not because it's bad, but because when you see Captain America, you see Black Widow, and you see Sharon Carter and Beast from X-Men drawn in this manner, it's just I'm not used to it. Like I'm used to seeing them look a lot different, and it just wasn't for me. I mean, some people I'm sure enjoy it. I didn't. So 2 stars out of 5. That's Onslaught Unleashed. Now next is a book that I have got a bit of stick about, and that's because in the Nerd Herd Comic Book Club I scored it 7.5 out of 10, and some people were outraged, like they were looking to cancel me and stuff. I'm joking, but it's Kingdom Come. Now, written by Mark Waid and drawn beautifully by Alex Ross. There's no question this book looks wonderful. Like, it's too beautiful to be a comic book. Really enjoyed the art. I did enjoy the story, essentially what it is. Something happens to Superman. So he disappears for 10 years, and in that time, whilst all the other heroes that we all know of are getting older, there's this new younger generation, and they're still heroes, they're still fighting crime and fighting villains, but they don't have the same kind of moral code than the previous generation. So Superman comes back with Wonder Woman and a few of the other kind of known characters, and essentially goes to these youngins with the idea like, join us and follow our lead, and be a superhero the way we think you should be, and if you don't, we'll have to put you in a jail. And so they build this gulag, and it's Luthor's always, he's the one kind of scheming kind of thing, and he wants the gulag to overflow all these guys who don't want to follow Superman, and want this big war to kick on because he has Captain Marvel or Shazam under his belt, under his kind of, what's the word, mind control. And but then again, Batman's on him as well. Like, it is a really, really good story, and I really enjoyed it, and 7 out of 10 is a good score. I'm giving this a 4 stars because I'm not going to do a 3.75 star. Go away. But essentially, my favourite book of all time is The Dark Knight Returns, but it wasn't always. And this is my reason for Kingdom Come. It could be up there. I really believe it could be up there. My issue with it is some of the characters who are obviously descendants of characters we should know. I would have liked to have been introduced to them a bit more and kind of understand who they are and like what their powers are and stuff like this here. I know this is a bit nitpicky and stuff, but I enjoyed the story that much that I do think this could potentially be one of my favourite books of all time. But with The Dark Knight Returns, that took me 2 or 3 rereads to fully appreciate it, and I think this could be the same. So a 7.5 out of 10 is really good. 4 stars is really good. I just think it could go higher than that, but I want to read it again and again and let me fully immerse myself and absorb everything and just enjoy it and appreciate it a lot more. I think 4 stars is good. And we come now to the first of the physical books I actually read this month for the Nerd Herd Comic Book Club, and the first one being The Cosmic Ghost Rider. Now for the Nerd Herd, we only read the miniseries. It's issues 1 to 5 of the Cosmic Ghost Rider, but I read this entire book. In this omnibus, we have Thanos Wins, and that's when Donny Cates first took over the Thanos series. So we have that. We have Cosmic Ghost Rider. We have Cosmic Ghost Rider Destroys Marvel History. We have the Guardians of the Galaxy. We have the Avengers run, which all the Ghost Riders kind of race in hell to see who becomes the ultimate whatever. It was good. It was alright. And then the Revenge of the Cosmic Ghost Rider, as well as a few other random one-shots and annuals and stuff like this here. I love the Cosmic Ghost Rider. So what's happened, if you don't know, Frank Castle, i.e. the Punisher, he dies fighting alongside the Avengers against Thanos. Thanos wins and kills everybody. Like literally everybody. There's no one left in the world. So Frank Castle makes a deal with the devil, makes a deal with Mephisto, who then becomes the new writer, the new Ghost Rider, the Spirit of Vengeance. But he's on Earth, roaming Earth for hundreds or thousands of years, and there's not a single soul on the planet. So he goes crazy, goes stir crazy. You know, he's not the Frank Castle you know of as the Punisher. He's a completely different kind of take on Frank Castle. Galactus comes to Earth. He's wounded. He's looking for Reed Richards from to help him out and whatever. But he's like, sorry, guy, he's not here. So then Galactus grants the powers of Cosmic to the Ghost Rider. He then becomes the Cosmic Ghost Rider. He then joins Thanos. And the idea that if he can work with Thanos, he can take him down from being his aide. He could get him from behind type of thing. But then he just doesn't. He just sticks with Thanos. And so Thanos wins. It's like the Cosmic Ghost Rider summons young Thanos into the future to fight King Thanos. And it's really good, and they have a battle because Thanos realizes no one else can kill him. Like, no one in the world can kill him apart from himself. And he also wants to meet up with Lady Death, and that's his kind of motivation for that. But then young Thanos doesn't do it. But then we lead into the Cosmic Ghost Rider miniseries, and he's sick and tired of having to deal with Thanos and all the kind of destruction and death that Thanos has caused. So what he does, he goes back in time. He's in Valhalla, and Odin sends him back in time. And Thanos is a baby, and his intention is to kill baby Thanos. And if he does that, the world will still exist, and everyone will be better for it. But he can't bring himself to kill baby Thanos. It's a baby nonetheless. So he then takes him under his wing and thinks to himself, well, if I can raise him better, he'll be a better version, and win-win for everybody. But essentially how it transpires is that Thanos, as a young pup who is like a sponge and absorbing everything, he obviously sees Frank Castle. He's trying to do good, but he's still killing and fighting and all sorts. And essentially, Frank Castle is the one who teaches Thanos murder. So you heard that right. Basically, the Cosmic Ghost Rider is the cause of everything cosmic when it comes to Thanos and the Infinity Stones and all kind of stuff. Completely shown the ropes by the Cosmic Ghost Rider. Fantastic. I do want to give a special mention to the annual, the Thanos annual in this book, because it's narrated by the Cosmic Ghost Rider, and it is a bit of trying to have a bit of slapstick kind of humor, like the character of all, I suppose. But there's this one particular story that Thanos is really nice. Like, he's really super nice. And the Cosmic Ghost Rider is explaining this is the nastiest, worst story you'll ever hear about Thanos. But he's really, really nice. What it is, there's some girl on a bus, and fate be it that she gets off this bus, bumps into a friend, and together they kind of cure disease, end hunger, and fight inequality. Sounds really good, and obviously that we all want that. But what happens is that Thanos is really super nice, and as the bus is coming down the road, he sees this little old woman. It's like, here, I'll help you. I'll cross the road. I'll help you. Arm in arm, takes her across the road. Super lovely, super nice, and we will move. Thanks very much, and you be on your way, type of thing. But what Thanos was doing by crossing that road with that little old woman, who's obviously a bit slower crossing the road, he is delaying that bus. That bus is delayed by a few seconds, and when that girl steps off that bus, she doesn't bump into her friend, and together they don't solve anything. They don't cure disease or end hunger because they never met up. That's sick. I should have mentioned at the start of that, but I enjoyed that book so much I wanted to get into it. Essentially, what I done is Thanos Wins and the Cosmic Ghost Rider, they're 9 out of 10s for me, to be honest, those two stories. The rest of the stories within the book aren't anywhere near that level. So I've scored the book overall as a whole, and I get a 4 stars. Fully enjoyed it, really recommend it to anybody. Check that out. Next up, I read Strange Academy. Now, this is written by Scotty Young, it's not drawn by Scotty Young, it's drawn by Humberto Ramos, who is obviously very good as well. I was a fan of this. Now, what I will say, this edition came, and as you can see, it's quite small. It's smaller than your single issue comic book size. I'm led to believe it's because for a younger audience, they are smaller, their hands are smaller. This is perfect size for them to read, which does kind of show that this book is definitely, it's in all ages, but it's probably more catered for children. Doesn't mean a 36-year-old like myself can't enjoy it, because I really did. As I said, I enjoyed it, so I've got a 3 stars rating for this. Now, what this is, there's a collection of youngsters who have these magical powers, and Doctor Strange and Doctor Voodoo, they start a school, an academy, to kind of nurture and show these young wizards and magicians and whatever the way, so ideally that they don't become evil and want to conquer the world as they get older. There's more going on behind the scenes with the teachers. Like, some of them are kind of at loggerheads because they think, well, like Dr. Voodoo thinks, for example, Dr. Strange is training these youngsters to be soldiers of some sort. He obviously denies it. That's possible. Doesn't appear in this volume as much, maybe in later volumes. But yeah, this book was really good. You have the youngsters all coming together. You've got some youngsters and they're kind of boarded with one another, roomed up with one another, and you kind of meet that dynamic where if they don't like each other, they'll kind of poke fun and prod at one another and even openly say they don't like each other. I suppose it's typical teenage behaviour. There's a lot in this book, language-wise, I don't relate to, because I'm not a teenager, and I also worry, do teenagers talk and think this way now, or is this one of those books where you have someone like Scotty Young, who's older than me, who is writing what he thinks teenagers are like today, and that's kind of threw me a little bit, and that's why it hasn't scored higher. But again, thoroughly enjoyable. You've got a good bit of emotion, good bit of fun, good bit of banter, and towards the end, of course, one of the students won't make it. They all come together to kind of, rectify an issue towards the end when they realise they're not very experienced yet in the whole magic thing, and they have to obviously rely on the adult magicians to come save the day, but it's too late for one. But what's one? I'm not going to spoil it. But yeah, 3 stars out of 5. Enjoyed it. I don't think I'll read on, but I'm glad that this exists, because there are a lot of young people will enjoy this. And one more physical book before I finish with one digital, and I read Reckless by Ed Brubaker and Sean Phillips. I mean, there's not a lot I say about Ed Brubaker and Sean Phillips as a team that a lot of people who are watching this probably don't already know. They are brilliant. They're together. I can't see them ever working with anyone else again. I don't think they should have to. One thing I'll notice, or I'll refer to in this book, is that in the foreword of this, Ed Brubaker did say that for 20 years he's wanted to write stories in this way, like releasing original graphic novels one after the other in a series. But because, as he refers it, he's on that comic book treadmill where he has to do the single issues and release them in that manner. But with the pandemic that hit, it allowed him to do this. So thoroughly enjoyed it. Every part of it was fantastic. So much so that I've given this 4 stars out of 5. Ed Brubaker and Sean Phillips, the art's fantastic. I mean, it's not any different towards like the Sean Phillips stuff you're used to. It's coloured by his son Jacob Phillips, who done some of the criminal stuff as well. It looks fantastic. The story is really good, and I think together they have a good way to kind of lay out the story, lay out the characters. They're not trying to build a huge big world. It's all real. It's real life, but they're just laying everything out in a lovely, fluid manner that you just read this cover to cover, with, no stopping. You don't need to go back and refer to anything else. Cover to cover, and just enjoy a really good story. And I love the fact that it's set in the 80s. in west side. Yeah, it's LA of the US. And basically, what this is Ethan Reckless, who was a former FBI, what's that called? Undercover. He's undercover the FBI, but he's undercover with these groups that are like, protesting the war in Vietnam, but maybe like some of them are starting to get a bit, um, uh, they're starting to maybe terrorize the government a bit more. And there's one of them who's like a bomber, and of course Ethan Reckless falls in love with the bomber's sister, and that's kind of what this is too. The sister's very much involved in this book, and she goes to Ethan Reckless for help. Ethan obviously leaves the FBI because he's done things he should never have done, even undercover, and he's no longer welcome amongst the crowd he used to hang about with. And now his job is he helps people who are in trouble, whatever it may be. And it's just a really cool setup, a really cool story. It kind of goes full circle a wee bit, and there's a bit of a twist at the end in terms of his past catches up with him once again. And I really enjoyed this. You've got some FBI and CIA interference here too, and again, cover to cover, lovely story. There is two other of these books out at the minute. I can't think what they're called at the minute. Destroy All Monsters and something. But there's a fourth one due as well. Can't recommend these high enough. Go grab them. And also, this book itself, like paper quality in this book's fantastic. And the last book for this January Reads video, it's something that really took me by surprise, to be brutally honest. I've never read anything Kelly Thompson, and other than like the Avengers or any kind of big event, I've never read Black Widow, and I just didn't think I ever would. But someone was kept saying like read this Kelly Thompson Black Widow, and I did. I read the first volume. Fantastic. Like again, I'm giving this 4 stars, and that's up there with Kingdom Come and Reckless. That shows how good this is, and I think it is more to do with the fact that it really did take me by surprise. This was really good, and maybe my own kind of unconscious bias beforehand didn't want to pick a Black Widow book up, but I'm sold now. I'm into this. I'm going to read the rest. So what this story is about is that Black Widow has her memory wiped. I say wiped, I mean she it starts off where she's fallen from a building, you think she's dead, but what actually turns out is that a group of her biggest foes and villains have kind of gathered her up and put her under, and basically installed these new memories into her, so she no longer knows herself as a spy, or as an Avenger, as a hero. She's an architect with a fiance and a baby. Yeah. And it's actually her baby. It's not like, it's, a fake baby. Fake babies, do they really exist? But no, this all happens a few months after her accident, and you have Bucky Barnes, Winter Soldier, and you have Clint Barton, who are obviously sussing her out and spying on her because they've now discovered her. She appeared in a security camera or something, so they're now looking like, she's here, what's going on? Is she undercover? Like, what's she doing? But they don't realise that she literally genuinely believes that the life she's living now is this life. Now, remember that movie, The Long Kiss Goodnight, back in the 90s? Fantastic movie, Gina Davis. This is very much reminiscent of that. You'll find out that Black Widow just knows how to do things without... It's like muscle memory. She can build a bomb. She can use knives in combat. Like it's all second nature to her, but she doesn't know she can do it. And it's brilliant. And like I say, with her son, who's maybe 1 or 2 years old at this point, but this was only a few months after, so this is all planned. They kidnapped Black Widow, put her under, kidnapped this guy, put him under, and basically made this baby out of the two of them, and give her this life, because they thought, well, for years and years we've tried to kill her, tried to stop her, and it hasn't worked. We'll do this. But of course, she starts to realise it, and of course the villains have to come in to end her, and they don't. But she has to kind of get her family out as well. So I love the way that her kind of motivations and have completely changed. That she now has a family to look after, and that's her priority. And again, I'm not going to give it away, but there's a huge emotional pull at the end, and involving her family, and it's a wonderful story. Again, this is volume 1. I'm looking forward to volume 2, but I cannot recommend this enough. Don't be like me. Don't be a moron. I think Black Widow, no. Kelly Thompson, no. Read this book. You'll really, really, really enjoy it. Well, folks, that is my January reads. I no idea how long this is going to be. Sorry for rambling on for too much, but that's the books I read this month. That's the scores I've given. If you'd like me to do like a further depth review of anything I've listed here, let me know. If there are any books that you think in the back of what I've talked about today that you think I should read on top of that, let me know that as well. I'm all about engagement and trying to get people to communicate and chat to and stuff like that there. So please feel free to comment and like and hit me up on Instagram as well. And yeah, thanks for watching. Thanks for your time. Goodbye.